Hello, good evening and a very warm welcome to the hot seat. In the hot seat today is a mature politician, very vociferous, and so a great pleasure to welcome onto the hot seat the one and only, the very inimitable Mr. Dinesh Gunawardene. Good evening, sir, and thank you for being on the program. Now then,
good evening.
This morning you had some problems, didn't you, on that flyover? Has it actually? Aren't you a regular user of that route?
Very much, Faiz.
So we should ask you, what do you think? Has it made a difference?
I don't think it's made much of a difference, but there was yesterday the derailment, so most of the traffic also would have suspected that it's not back to normal. So on and off, the communication, the messages are not properly reaching the travelers, the passengers. As a result, the bottleneck increases on that.
Somebody was suggesting actually that the Rajagiriya flyover is in the wrong direction, should be the other way around.
Yeah, there's so many arguments and a debate on it.
Now the main debate, and I thought I'd ask you if you can throw some light on this matter, is we've just seen the conclusion of the local government polls, and yes, we've all heard the result and seen it, and then this has led to some sort of leadership crisis. Why should one person, let's say Ranil Wickremesinghe in this case, why should they resign?
Yeah, as you say, there is a leadership crisis. It is more, I would say, for us, a confidence crisis of the nation. The nation lost confidence in the present government and leadership. That's why they have faced one of the biggest defeats the United National Party faced in recent times, dropping down to 30 plus. Which means you can't run a government after you lose confidence in the country, locally and internationally.
Now, if you look at the result in Colombo, where there was an overwhelming majority for the United National Party, if you only look at that result, and then you look at all the troublesome matters like the corruption and so on, and even the bond, let's say, and the roads and so on, when you look at it like that, it would appear that the people of Colombo corruption and all these other contentious issues didn't seem to matter. Is that right? Is that a fair way of putting it?
I don't agree, because Colombo has always been the most stronghold of the UNP.
So
they are in opposition or in government, they have just held Colombo.
They've always held
Always held, except for the three-wheeler issue, where they got derailed once. Otherwise, Colombo is their pocket borough. And Colombo is not entirely Sri Lanka. There are so many municipal councils where their vote has dropped. That is one thing. And
so that's an inalienable fact, is it? That's it. Their votes come down.
It's a drop. It's a loss of confidence. Running government, you must have the confidence of the people at all levels.
But there is no tradition of a local government poll changing the government of the day.
No, correct. Local government poll does not change government of the day, but we are in crisis, economic crisis, financial crisis, and a political crisis. Soon after, the SLP said we don't want to be under a UNP government.
They said they didn't want to be partners.
So that was the beginning. That shows there was a crisis of government. The JO offered the SLP to form a government.
But then when you look at, okay, so we take that on board, but then when you look at the possibilities available or the mechanisms available to the president to make a change, it rather looks like the 19th Amendment is a huge impediment and has reduced the ability of the President to act decisively and incisively if he so wishes.
Of course, certain powers of the President have been reduced under the 19th Amendment, but it does not totally curtail the President from changing the Cabinet or dismissing the Cabinet or dismissing the Prime Minister. The issue is that even within the United National Party, there is no support, overwhelming support that the Prime Minister had enjoyed earlier. Today it has dropped. So the situation is totally different. And we have, for us, today we see a reshuffle, saying in 2 weeks another reshuffle. Maybe after 2 weeks another reshuffle. Where are we heading to? We have to think of the country as political leaders, not of day-to-day holding office. This is, I think, the crisis today.
And what about President? We are told that President Sirisena has asked the Supreme Court for their interpretation under the 19th Amendment about changing the Prime Minister. Are you aware if this opinion has come back?
I'm not sure of it, but it's President's prerogative to ask for an opinion on any matter from the Supreme Court. But the thing is, how can you allow a country to start collapsing in this manner and finally lead to anarchy, and watch and say, I have to get advice from A, B and C? It is very clear that the government is in pieces today.
A couple of weeks ago, the news was full of it, where there was people going in and out to meet the President and so on. It was rather a carnival. Now then, during this period, there was also talk that your group would be lending support to the SLFP in an attempt to form a government. So were you all not able to muster the necessary 113?
No, we extended, as you say, we openly extended our support, the JO in opposition, to form a SLFP-led government. Of course, there was the SLFPers who have been working on it, and it is still, I would say, still not over, because the reshuffle is only for 2 weeks. Another reshuffle, which means the crisis is on.
Now, you say only 2 weeks, but then, so does that mean the Prime Minister is going to be holding this law and order ministry just for 2 weeks?
So he says it's only for 2 weeks, and there's another reshuffle in 2 weeks. So we don't know who's coming and who's going, but no one is going. It is a matter of musical chairs. You'd still get a chair somewhere to sit.
Musical chairs and people going and people coming and people not going. Stay with us. After the break, we'll give you more detail. And welcome back to the hot seat. And in the hot seat this evening is Mr. Dinesh Gunawardena. Now then, Mr. Dinesh, there was a sort of baying for the Prime Minister's head. But surely his role as the leader of the UNP is down to the membership of the UNP. And we can't be having outside forces interfering with that process, can we?
I agree.
So
no problem. They're having a problem.
Yeah.
And this is it's not only inside Sirikota.
Yeah.
It is outside. So it's a problem not only for the UNP. It's a problem for the country, because they have been put to office, and the people have lost confidence.
Now, can I ask another question another way? You all have more or less banded together, 50. 51?
54.
54, right. Now, you're there, but you all can actually make a positive contribution. Why can't you all join hands with the President and take this country forward on various issues would need to be resolving. The fiscal management, the corruption index is way too high, political patronage, and so on. Now these are the very items, the high value ticket if you like, that resulted in a change when President Rajapaksa lost that last bid. So in that same sort of context, do you not see similarities with what's happening now? Or is there a grave danger of forgetting why the Rajapaksas lost?
Well, no, very clearly the situation is much more, one would say, in a worse situation.
Now
we are in a tremendous debt trap today, financial crisis.
Yeah.
We are at the verge of waiting for money to survive. So a good governance is necessary, I fully agree. Cut down waste, corruption,
yeah.
Manage the budgetary proposals, be within the framework and go ahead with development. This government has failed for the last 3 years. They've been talking, and now we are going to face another round where, you will agree with me, we are in a crisis of oil prices are rising up. And one of these days, the government will have to raise the oil prices, gas prices. It will overflow to the other sectors of the economy. And that will worsen the crisis.
And make the government more unpopular.
Government is unpopular, it will make it more. Right. Foreign exchange flowing in, investment confidence has collapsed. So we need to, you must think of the country, we need to put things correct on better government, better confidence, so that the people will have, the entrepreneurs, the private sector, investors, as well as the people.
Do you think there's enough of votes for your party to make big presence in Parliament?
We have made an impact. The government was trying to avoid the biggest financial fraud of the central bank bond issue. We took a 3-year battle for us.
Yeah.
It's a 3-year battle still not ending.
Yeah.
Because the government is trying to cover it up. Government is trying to avoid.
So is it wrong of me to to be suspicious of the Prime Minister's visit to Singapore? Because the so-called rogue governor, if you like, is reported to be living in Singapore.
Prime Minister, of course, visits Singapore very often. So he should meet and bring the former governor back, because he's Minister Law and Order. And the judiciary is wanting so-and-so to come back and face the charges. So why not bring him back? If he meets him, or if he knows where he is, he's taken responsibility for it in Parliament.
But we've seen people, let's talk openly, we'll mention the names. Let's take the case of Talata Atukorala. She was, by and large, doing a pretty good job at foreign employment. And then she was given justice. And then we are told that Malik Samaravikrama had a little chat with her and said, would you like to do highways? And so this poor woman presumed that he was talking about justice, to swap justice with this. And of course she was surprised that she's left holding the lesser post. Lesser in these terms, that she says that what can she do as Minister of Justice for the people in her electorate? Valid point?
Yeah, maybe that's the way people, today's politicos, look at the national responsibilities. You don't become a minister to look after your local authority. You become a minister to serve the whole nation. The entire country, the professionals, the business community, and the foreign advisors commented on highways and higher education going together. Even in the reshuffle, it continues. Where the scientific way of management?
Now then, Mr. Dinesh, there's something rather ironic that's happening, and I'd like to cast our minds to that. Cast our minds back to when you all were in power under President Rajapaksa, newly elected, and you all were trying to fight a terrorist war which had intensified after the ascendancy of President Rajapaksa. Whilst you all were committed to peace, the LTT intensified their efforts. At the same time, you all were trying to raise money. And Ranil Wickremesinghe, as the leader of the opposition then, put the International Bank on notice that if they when they came into power, they would not honor that $500 million bond. Now, I find it rather ironic that in this government, in which Ranil Wickremesinghe is the Prime Minister, people associated with him and his party have actually done something else. They've done something worse. They've robbed the central bank using the bond scam. Now, what do you say to that bank then? And what do you say now? And this is the same man who, according to WikiLeaks and a dispatch by the American ambassador, says that he asked Japanese, did he ask the Japanese visiting envoy to withhold economic aid to Sri Lanka?
Yeah, at that time, the opposition's attempt was somehow to starve us of financial support.
But surely this is not partisan, we're talking national here.
Correct, you're correct, I agree. The statements made by the leader of the opposition at that time and his party frontliners in parliament virtually said, we are not going to honor. We are not going to honor. That is not a way that should have handled this issue. Secondly, today they are in power, the way they are mismanaging, and the central bank bond issue and other issues that are being today questioned, where are we heading to? Where is the continuity of the positions that one takes in opposition when you enter government? This is the situation that has brought about loss of confidence to the nation.
Loss of confidence. Let's come back after the break and take a look at that aspect of governance. And welcome back to the hot seat. We spoke about the irony of this government. Now then, this so-called reshuffle, it's completely pedantic. I mean, sorry, if that's the wrong word. It's completely of no value. It's useless because it's the same pieces. You know, you put this here and it's all back again. It's looking the same, excepting that the minister who was in charge of highways, but who is from that area, has now got a new new ministry. It's the minister in charge of candy development. What's going on? You can seem to create ministries as and when it feels like it.
Yeah.
What about Jaffna? What about Matara? What about Gaul?
Every big city, provincial city will want to have a minister now, cabinet minister.
Yeah.
This, Paraja, you're correct when you say the reshuffle has brought no shuffle at all. It is becoming a big farce and a joke. Serious thinking people don't think that this government can go on. And
there is some ambiguity in the Constitution as well, in the 19th Amendment. In the previous state of affairs, the President, by way of letter, could remove the Prime Minister. Now we have to look at some other mechanism, if he wants to.
No, the Prime Minister has to win the confidence of Parliament. That is very clear. The President appoints the person who could enjoy the confidence of Parliament.
In his opinion.
In his opinion. So if the Prime Minister has lost confidence, what more? I mean, for the President.
But can your group and the others, can your show hand of 113 in Parliament?
Yeah, situation will come I mean, wait 2 weeks because another reshuffle is coming.
Are we waiting 2 weeks? Or
and after that, another reshuffle on the 1st of April is coming.
Right.
So,
unfortunate day, the 1st of April, to do these things.
Yeah, I mean, this is what will happen. Yeah. We have seen governments in other countries, how it collapses in this manner. Right. I only hope, and I don't wish that we get into the trap that Greece got in. Because changing of personalities is not the issue that is going to solve. The crisis is much more deeper, financial and economic crisis. This is the crisis which should be addressed by national leaders.
And but do you think that when all this is going on, and it's all sorts of things is going on, it's almost the same during the war, where we had bombs going off here, there and everywhere. So the investors, apart from the people in this country who were frightened out of their wits, investors must be now feeling the same way. But about the economics and the legal system here, where there doesn't seem to be stability of policy, and there's retrospective taxes. We mustn't forget the super gains tax. That was a wonderful tax because it was decided by one man, without investigation, without a probe of any sort. The former finance minister said that the super gains tax was to tax people who'd made profits of over 2 billion, and that these were ill-gotten gains. How can one say that? We live in democracy. We need to first check it out.
Today we hear all these type of statements from the ministers. They come and go, but the country is suffering. But I would say we are in a serious economic political crisis. The government is trying to show that nothing of the sort. Yes, IMF is knocking on the door for the next tranche. So many investors are demanding the government for better conditions, confidence, good governance. Where are we heading to? Our foreign exchange earnings are dropping.
Yes. Are we heading towards the very reasons that is popularly believed why President Rajapaksa was sent home?
I think we are heading to a worse situation because President Rajapaksa had a government which was run under one party leadership. Today it is a divided, a government which has no leadership. It is just floating. That is the sad part. It is a government which is floating. Today the Prime Minister is saying, I'm going, I'm ready to go, I'm forming a UNP government. Next day the SLAP is saying, no, we want a separate government. Next day another group is saying, we want to overthrow our own UNP leader. All these messages are not only nationally, it's internationally.
That's the problem here.
That's the problem, and it affects our country.
Now, the Prime Minister should be in Singapore now, and he's gone to address an Invest Sri Lanka forum to drum up support. But there's something else in Singapore that he may be able to help with more critically, especially because he's the Minister in Law and Order. Arjuna Mahendran, do you think he'll make some move to try and meeting this chap and saying, listen chum, come back, because don't do the shameless thing. Your son-in-law is in the Colombo remand prison, and your daughter and your grandchildren are all sort of lost at sea.
The law and order only for 2 weeks.
Is that long enough to fix the problem?
So he has to show within 2 weeks that he can deliver.
Well, he'll have to move at the speed of light.
He has to deliver the former governor to Colombo.
But do you think that he'll be able to bring him back?
Prime Minister need not go to Singapore to bring him back. He could have brought him back. Prime Minister visits Singapore very often and had to meet the business investors. But these are all another aspect of covering up the crisis here, the failure, the collapse of government.
And you say that that's a reflection of what's happening here.
It is, it's a reflection. The governor has to be brought back. If there is some confidence to be built in the financial circles, first, not the government, political circles, the financial, judiciary.
But always, when it comes to matters of finance, there's always undue delays. We've seen it in the past, we're seeing it now. There's no end to it. When do you think this government, when do you think a government committed to the people's requirements, when do you think such a government will come in?
Now the message has been given by the country that they do not have any confidence in the present government. That is the first message, which is very clear. Sections who are supporting January 8th has moved away openly.
Right.
And they say this cannot be repaired, nothing can emerge from this government. So a new government is coming. That is what the country is demanding. It will have to come.
Who will be the Prime Minister?
Let's see what the new government is going to produce.
Right. Dinesh, you know what, it's been wonderful having you on the program. Please do be receptive to coming back in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll see if how your predictions and how your analysis is coming through. Do you agree? Do we have a deal?
Thank you, Faraz.
Wonderful. On that note, that's it for the Hot Seat this week. Take care and good night.